Greetings, my friends, music lovers, thrill seekers, conversationalists across the frigid plains. Welcome back. I am your host, the award-winning Rush Limball, all-knowing, all-caring, all-sensing, all-everything Maharishi. Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. Serving humanity simply by opening my mouth. Executing all assigned host duties flawlessly, all with talent on loan from God. Yes, folks, welcome to the Snowgadushu Quality Learning Center for Children. Imagine how long that sign has been up and no one even noticed. That's more of the racism and bigotry of low expectations. They gave a bunch of American workers tax money to foreigners to open a learning center. No one is enrolled, no one works there. The sign over the door, learning, is spelled wrong. Either it's a perfect example of how after handing them taxpayer dollars, they felt like checking up on them would be racism, or they saw the misspelled sign and thought, typical Democrat way, they're blacks from Africa, we can't expect any better. That's the best they're capable of, and I'm not going to correct them. The same way they've allowed generations of grown black adults to say they need to ask you a question. At this point, I'm assuming it all started as a joke. The black community was like, watch these scared liberals, I'm going to do this on purpose, and they won't even correct me because they're so afraid of me and filled with guilt. And I think it just ballooned from there. Why is it just that word? No others, just only that. Joe Snerbley. As a black man, I've never heard misuse the word ask. What do you think about this? Okay. He said, axing for money and asking for money will get you vastly different results. Very well put. But I digress. It's the second reaction of bigotry, because it's still the reaction as the fraud amount just keeps climbing. White liberal Democrat women, they don't care. First, it's not happening, and then when you point out it's happening, it's a good thing it's happening. It's that bigotry that they deserve your tax money because of patriarchy, slavery, etc., yawn. So the people in charge of making sure your hard-earned tax dollars aren't wasted, let them keep the misspelled sign over their non-existent business that you're paying for, because they didn't want to investigate and look racist. Or they were in on it, or at least getting something out of it themselves. These jobs attract certain people. Look at any housing authority. Do they have a reputation for being insane because normal people that don't want to control your life take the jobs? Hell no! That type of person wants a job where they can tell others what to do. They crave that power, any of it. So imagine now the Karens in Minnesota in those jobs can't wait to shit all over your permits and plans. If you had a business that wasn't a business, they'd sniff you out in a heartbeat. Oh, especially if you're a white male. They'd be all over that. They wouldn't be able to wait to slap up some violation for having a misspelled sign like having blinking lights when the housing authority voted against it that Christmas. So just like every mayor of Chicago, you're incompetent or you're in on it. And we all know the answer already. So one YouTuber dude does more journalism than the last 30 years of corporate news has, and made it clear as a bell as to why they did so. There's more of it everywhere, and they all benefit from it. And they go ahead and call him a right-winger or a far right-winger. That's been the case now for years, too. You cannot even follow politics, and if you call a man an address a man, they will say you must be on the right. And they call everybody else a cult. You have to lockstep and check every box that they believe, or you're discarded. With us or against us. Made them so mad when George Bush said that about war on terrorism. You would think that as Americans we have issues that everybody could unite behind, even as just human beings. But no, we're always Democrats being Democrats. War on terrorism. Hold on there, buddy, your terrorist is somebody's freedom fighter. Stopping pedophiles. Hold on there, buddy, what's wrong with youth attraction? They've made their insanity their policies. So they've got to do all they can to discredit him because their gravy train has come under fire. My number one question, besides all the fraud, is who is the one person, the one at the big meeting that brought this proposal? Hey everybody, remember the movie Black Hawk Down? Remember the villains in the movie that acted like chimpanzees with machine guns all hopped up on cot? Yeah, that country filled with cot-chewing marauders that have open firearm markets and public executions by warlords? Let's bring them all to America as the new most needed immigrant group. Pass out the memo for everybody to repeat. People are waiting in line right now from all over the world have to prove what they benefit America and all the hoops they have to jump through to see the memo go out that Somalia is the new hotbed for the next generation of Americans' astronauts and engineers and mathematicians. Repeat ad nauseum. Retcon everything. Somalians built this country. they now say. Imagine being the Irish, the English, the slaves, the Asians that were all here, depicted in the Old West movies, all treated like garbage, and they busted their asses to be a part of this country. Now you have Ilhan Omar and AOC trying to retcon our history and tell you that there were Somalians involved in all of it. They have let Hamilton distort everything about history. They don't understand that's a musical and not historical fact. I've been in school a lot, seen a lot of textbooks. Never have I seen a Somali standing in a room with the Constitution founders. Imagine the Irish and the Asians and the slaves being shoved aside for a foreigner like Ilhan Omar to come into our country and say they didn't suffer as they built this country. It was the Somalians. You can't make this up, folks. It's that low IQ, failed trickery of a toddler. The country that was everyone's enemy in the 90s is now the mecca of intelligence and hard work? What changed over there? Did anything change? Who's the person to blame for all this disaster? Who would have thought if you took a bunch of third world hillbillies that dragged U.S. soldiers' bodies through the streets and dropped them into America, they'd be scamming the system instead of becoming productive citizens? Everyone. Except the person that came up with the idea and the idiots that opened the door for 4 years. The country known for piracy. Who would have thought when you brought them into your country they wouldn't still be pirates? Who's the one person in our government that decided this for us? We need to know. We deserve to know their name and deal with them accordingly. They deserve not to have a job anywhere near the U.S. government and probably deserve some jail time. But we'll never know, and they'll never be outed. So let's go over this. Democrats complain that we need to take in immigrants because they can't thrive in their country and help us by coming here. So by their definition, we're taking all the people with the drive and intellect that should stay in their country and help try to fix it. But we're bringing them here instead, thus dooming their country to being doomed longer, because we've taken anyone that could even try to fix their problems there. And it'll stay and get worse, because we keep taking the people from these countries that should fix their country. And if we're being forced to take people from your country simply for the reason that, quote, it doesn't work there, then I guess we should just annex your country and fix it for you. The men of the West will come in and put in infrastructure so you'll never have to leave, and they'll be called racist for it. The Democrats can't explain any of it. The compassion of letting the world flood into your country and have access to its resources. The only countries being demanded to be diversified are the Europeans and United States. I see no calls to diversify Spain. No calls to diversify Brazil, Colombia. How about Somalia itself? That's national suicide to any nation in world history, and that's because they never let the liberal women lead the countries and companies. This suicidal empathy solely comes from the liberal women of the West. And now you know why, all throughout our history, men never gave them a seat at the table. Remember in Titanic after dinner when the men went to smoke and drink and sent all the women away? They knew what you're all learning in the last 30 years. Liberal women trying to run things by emotion is the downfall of the West. So how did the leering sign go unnoticed? How did Ilhan Omar having $30 million go unnoticed? They all know. They're all doing it. If a foreign inbred Somalian can get $30 million from you, imagine what the educated politicians are ripping you off for. I have here my formerly nicotine-stained fingers. Do you know what the number is that we have given out globally since World War II? $3.8 trillion given away. Nothing in return. Handed out. We could have flying cars, all the cool stuff we thought we'd have in 2026, but we're still babysitting third world dumps, with your leaders entertaining the thought that they're the same as us. Being American is a state of mind, not a skin color. And being a pirate waiting to treat our country like a GTA server is not being American. We already have enough problems with our own Democrats, and you want to introduce pirates and marauders to the arena. Do you know why you have to press 1 for English? It's not because you're in the minority. It's not because the foreigners make up the majority. It's because the state knows every single program they offer will be engaged by foreigners. Whatever the state offers, healthcare, food, housing, court, etc. It's all the non-English speaking people showing up and overwhelming the system. We've all been in situations where you've seen absurd signs. Absolutely no milkshakes in the stairwell. Obviously, an incident happened that required that sign to be put up, even if you don't understand it. Somebody's trying to get ahead of the disaster. So these people have answered the phone enough times and dealt with the insanity of trying to translate with the caller that this is what they've come up with as a solution. They answer the phones. They know who's calling. When you create programs to help people, shady people will always look to exploit it and abuse it and corrupt it. You want to help people? Stay vigilant against the corruption that steals from them. How can you say you're helping anyone if you're okay with people stealing the money meant to help somebody else? And call it racism when everyone notices it. If we were all waiting hours in line to get in someplace and the company decides to make it easier, a second line is added for anyone with a disability. So a bunch of disabled folks get in the other line. They get in faster and our line thins out a bit. That's the plan. But then tomorrow, after word gets out and everyone shows up with a disability and the line is longer than the original, is the way it always plays out. And the government can't even be bothered to check up on where all your money is going. Seems it would have been much cheaper to hire a staff of investigators that work for the government and ensure these places are legit and operational. Even a staff of thousands would be cheaper than the $19 billion handed away to foreigners while Americans can't afford homes. Watch how many of these foreigners are driving around in their leering centers in $80,000 cars. A strip mall of empty and boarded up stores except a Somalian daycare would be the biggest red flag to any law enforcement with half a brain in any movie. But Minnesota and Illinois leaders seem dumbfounded by all of it. Because they're very, very stupid or very, very in on it. Find the fraudsters that are here first, learning the scams to teach it to the new ones, and set it all up for them. CNN reported over 50% of Americans want all illegals deported, and CNN was surprised when they polled New York Times 55%, Marquette 64%, CBS News 57%, ABC News 56%. And that's CNN. If CNN is admitting 56% average, it's closer to 80 in real life. Americans want America for Americans. Imagine what we could have if we spent our money on our own American citizens instead of being a rich uncle with such low self-esteem that we feel the need to pass out $100 bills to every person we pass. And they're not appreciative for it. They laugh at us behind your back and then just wait for the next $100. You were born here, or came here legally. You spent your whole life following the rules, doing everything the right way, being a good citizen. Then your servants in the government, go on TV during lockdown and show you their sub-zero freezers full of their $15 pints of ice cream. Foreigners like Ilhan Omar come to our country from their third world shithole to run for office, make $30 million in fraud, and tell you what your country is about and what it should be. She wanted her family to be here so badly to make tons of money and complain about you that she married her brother. Why didn't she get an education and run for office in her home country and stay and pass policies to try and fix it? Why doesn't she get in the faces of the Muslim men of Somalia and tell them how to run things? Because she sure as hell didn't want to be in Somalia either. Somalia is Africa to the rest of Africa. We point out Africa as a poor, corrupt country. Africans point out Somalia to the rest of Africa as a poor, corrupt country. Look at your menial home, while you're the American citizen that did everything they told you to the right way. Now look where she lives, her $30 million bank account, your public servant. Servants living high on the hog, while the people they serve pay for it all. Since when was this the plan? And how long is it supposed to go on? Don't you feel cheated? Ripped off? Over $19 billion in fraud of your money went to her, other Democrats, and off to terrorists around the world while they charge you Illinois property taxes and the fatso governor buys himself a job after being kicked out of his family business. California governor dumps millions into a train that doesn't exist. Not one nail nailed. Not one screw screwed. Millions of dollars so far. And look at their houses. Why do your public servants live better than you, and how long are you going to put up with it? It was Brandon Gill versus the very un-American, pro-fraudulent leaders of Minnesota. Roll the tape.
Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps? No. 54%. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households? It's 7%. There's a big difference between 54% and 7%. What percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on Medicaid? I don't know. It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households? The number is 18%. That's a quite an astounding difference. What percentage of Somali-headed households are on welfare in general? I don't know. It's 81%. What about, let me just ask you, after 10 years of being in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare? I don't know. The number is 78%. So even after 10 years, 78% of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare.
So that shows you how many Somalian immigrants are on welfare versus the people born here that are on welfare. Huge difference, huge gap, like the Grand Canyon. Brutal takedown and exposure. I'm not racist, I'm prejudiced. Everyone is. Prejudiced is prejudging. Look it up by definition, which everyone does all day when making any choice or decision based on their experience. Stop letting people tell you being human is wrong when they are the NPCs without logic. They're the ones that were allowed into our country. They're the ones that stole over $9 billion, with a B, in fraud from taxpayers. They're the ones that staged break-ins where the thieves stole only the enrollment papers everyone would be looking for. They put the banana and rice lady on TV to tell us her Jesse Smollett experience. And now Ilhan Omar gets a syringe of apple juice squirted on her. For those of you without children, this is the equivalent of a toddler covered in chocolate telling you they didn't eat the chocolate. This is how stupid they think you are. They don't have a high enough IQ to register hypocrisy or shame. If everyone turned a blind eye to Ilhan Omar, Nancy Pelosi, obviously ripping off the taxpayers, I have to assume they all do it. It's not just Democrats. Plenty of people calling out Crenshaw for doing the same thing. Just like the Epstein list, those that cover it up are involved, in my mind. I don't care. In either situation, who is guilty, they gotta go. Republicans, Democrats, makes no difference to me. That's another difference between us and them, folks. They will defend, distract, and deflect from their own. We're for law and order, and will gladly give up our own corrupt to the gallows. Never let them tell you we're the same. We're not. This is why we need immigration officers deporting people by the millions. They cheered it when Barack Obama was doing the same, despite what the tantrum-throwing degenerates cry about from their new Chaz zone. The American people are cheering. We voted for this. You think you'd cheer Ilhan Omar being deported? The real celebration would start when they convict her of failing her mission when she returns there. I will put no stock in anyone that comes here from another country, waves that flag, and doesn't want to go back there. And on top of all that fraud, it seems that Nick Shirley is headed to California, and they are terrified. Went real long on this segment, folks. We'll make it up on the other end of the break. Back after this.